Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another session here in Readers Magnet's featured author interview. My name is Leah, and I will be your host for today. And with me is one of the Readers Magnet's featured author. And today, he will be sharing to us what this book is all about, him as an author, and of course, what inspired him to write this book. So, yes, everyone, let's all welcome our one and only Mr. Randy Lee Higgins, author of the book Salvo. Yes, hi Randy. It's good to see you. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you, Leah. Good to see you too.
Wow, that's good to hear. Yeah, it is good to see you. Thank you so much, Randy. And yes, Randy, this is the moment we've been waiting for because, of course, it's now time to know more information about your book as well as your journey behind it. But first, before we tackle about your book, of course, we wanted to know who Mr. Randy Lee Higgins is. So, yes, a little bit of self introduction, please.
All right. I grew up in the Blue Ridge Mountains, Virginia, and it's beautiful here. It's just it's like a haven. Um, Very peaceful. Just lush green mountains right on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And then I went to California to do my doctoral program, and
Hmm.
and liked it there. So I ended up staying for several years afterwards. But I always knew I'd come back, and now I'm back. I'm actually living in the house I grew up in, so I've come full circle. It's nice to be back home.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Randy. Thank you so much for that, Randy. And you know what? Just like what you mentioned earlier, it's good to be back home where your heart really belongs, you
Yeah.
know? Yes. Uh-huh. Thank you so much for that, Randy. And of course, yes, this is a moment we've been waiting for because we wanted to know more information about your book, Salvo. So, yes, will you tell us what this book is all about?
Yeah. Yes. What I went to Peru in 2016 and did an ayahuasca retreat, 8 days. And while I was there, I met this group of beings, and they called themselves celestials. And we were sitting around on the table, lying around on the floor, rather in a circle. And I noticed this other circle of beings. They were sort of faintly blue, sort of luminous. And one of them pointed at me and said, "That one there needs some loving." And so one of them came down and kind of came into my body and offered, tremendous comfort, um, just this outpouring of love. And when I got back to Virginia, I noticed that they were still here. They were still with me, and they taught me a meditation practice. And I'd studied
Wow.
meditation my whole life, but never really. I grabbed it with both hands, but it never really grabbed me back. But they said, forget everything you've ever learned about meditation. We're going to teach you how to do it the right way. And they did. They said, forget about lotus, sitting in lotus position. That's a distraction. Forget about saying a mantra. They said, meditation is about listening, not talking. And
Mm.
it worked. And that was in August. And by December, one evening I was sitting in meditation and I was like sinking into a bottomless ocean. And I noticed I wasn't breathing. It scared me. But I remembered I'd heard something about breathless meditation. So afterwards I Googled. And sure enough,
Wow.
it's there's a thing. It's called samadhi. It translates unity with the universe. And they said the purpose of samadhi is service. Now I've written books my whole life, but they've been just sort of for myself. But they said now you'll be writing for the world, and they started writing. And the first um, the first message I got was the next time you read a book, imagine that you wrote it because you did. And
Hmm.
then there were
Right.
more. There were more. And then after a while, they said, these passages are a book, and the title is Salvo. I didn't know what the word meant. I did Google the word salvo. I thought it meant maybe something like salvation or salve, but
Right.
it means a volley of artillery, like in a war. And it's like, okay, so they're sending information from another dimension to ours to help us with this
Mm.
situation that we're in, which I call the apocalypse, which is good,
It's
which is
like a
full.
new Earth. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes, yes. But it's
Wow.
a hand reaching out to help us through the labyrinth to get to the other side. Because that's what salvo was intended to be, and that's what it does. That's what it is.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Randy. Now, wow, this book was really written in a state of deep meditation, which
Yeah, yeah,
contains the messages from, just like what you mentioned earlier, our future selves who have survived a lot of global, let's say, catastrophe, for example,
yeah,
who that also aims to guide us through this difficult period, let's say, revealing that overcoming of our fears, embracing our true selves is the really key to, just like what you said earlier, it's like apocalypse, just about the new earth, the and also at the same time, I mean, at the same time, Randy, with the background in psychology, the life experiences you have, you can really see the potential for, let's say, changes, or let's say miracles, and even in the tragedy, that shares this optimistic perspective you have from where you came from. That's just so amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for that, Randy. Now, Randy, in your whole journey, what is the most important thing that you have learned on your journey?
yeah. It would have to be, when we're living our lives, we think that reality is outside us, that people are real and things are real. And the way it works is what's real is what's on the inside. And the outside just shows us what's on the inside. But it's what's on the inside that's real. So there's no need to look outside yourself for anything, for answers, for love, for joy, for miracles. Because when you practice this meditation, you become a love factory and a joy factory and a miracle factory. So you don't have to look for them outside because you're actually producing them constantly.
Hmm.
So it's just there's this wealth of love and joy and miracles that comes from you. So it can never be taken away. So it's a vastly superior way to live. And that's what I offer in Salvo and my other
Hmm.
books. You become a miracle factory.
Wow, that's nice. And all of these are connected to our spiritual path, right? Now, how did you end up on this spiritual path, Randy?
I've always had kind of a religious bent. When I was a little kid, we'd play superheroes, and
Right.
I'd tie a towel around my neck, and I was a religious fan. I just thought that was so cool. I was just flying through the world, spreading truth and goodness. And
Hmm.
I guess I sort of still feel that way. But when I was 16, I had an experience where I left my body and got to see that there's a much bigger reality than I'd been able to see before.
Wow.
That greatly expanded. I saw, well, where we go when we die. I'm very familiar. I'm very comfortable with where we go when we die. That's a comfortable, familiar place for me.
Hmm. Well, you know what, Randy, just wanted to, just like what you mentioned earlier, that about these miracles, it's aren't necessarily supernatural events, but rather the
Oh,
resilience of the human spirit, right?
yes,
The
yes.
power of compassion, and at the same time, it's really about the discovery of unexpected strength and meaning in the face of loss. Wow, that's very amazing. The connection of reminding us how to be profound. Reminding us of the, let's say, profound beauty and potential that someone can have, even when we encounter the darkest times of our lives. Wow. Now, also, Randy, you say that Salvo is one of the most important book since the Bible. Now, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, people
That's
people
a hot
challenge me on
question.
people
Hmm.
challenge me on that all the time. But I didn't want to say it.
Right.
The ETs insisted that I add that. And every an age is 2,000 years. We've just completed the Piscean age. For anybody who's familiar with astrology, and the Piscean age is the fishes, right? And it corresponds to Christianity, which is also symbolized by the fish and fishers of men. So the New Testament is the scripture for the Piscean age, right? And before that was the age of Aries, and that corresponds to the Old Testament. And the Old Testament talks about rams a lot. The word ram is used 86 times in the Old Testament. So the Old Testament is the scripture for the age of Aries. And before that, it was Egypt was the predominant culture. And the Egyptian Book of the Dead was their text, their sacred text. And the bull was their symbol for death and resurrection. But a new age has just begun, the Aquarian age. And what my books are is they are scripture for the New Age. They are scripture for this age in the same way that the New Testament was for the Piscean age. So
Mm.
it's just that straightforward.
Wow, you are really offering an optimistic viewpoint in this book, Randy. Highlighting the possibility of miracles emerging even amidst tragic circumstances, suggesting a hopeful outlook on life's challenges, right?
Once you get over the fear of death, then anything is possible.
Hmm.
Everything is possible. As long as
Exactly.
you're as long as you're in physical life, as long
Hmm.
as you're alive, the only places you're allowed to go are the ones designated physical and life. But once you die, you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere in the multiverse. And
Hmm.
that's where we want to be. We want to be able to go everywhere. And death is the doorway for that. Death is a good
Right.
thing. Death is the doorway that we want to go through. That's what makes it all happen.
Wow, interesting. That's interesting, Randy. Now, Randy, I've actually seen your book online, and you know what? I must say that your book is really a successful creation because you've been getting a lot of positive feedback, good reviews from your readers, right? Now, what I just wanted to ask, what writers inspired you to really have the courage to write this book? What writers inspired you that you come up with this book?
Yeah, yeah. When I was 14, I read the Bible cover to cover. So that made an impression. That made a big impression. Just seeing your
Really
what.
into reading.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Just because I knew that I was going to be, dealing with issues of that magnitude and writing about issues of that magnitude. It's intuitively, I knew that. But when I was 16, I discovered the Seth material written by Jane Roberts, and um, Seth, he's interesting. He's the channel writer that physicists prefer. Says he introduced me to quantum physics, before I'd ever even knew what the term was. Reality is a lot more interesting, a lot more complex than any of us, thought it was. So that opened up a lot of doors for me. And another writer that's in the same genre that I am is Dolores Cannon. She she was a hypnotherapist, and she would help people like stop smoking and stuff like that. But one day she accidentally hypnotized somebody into a past life, and she went with it, and um, and started doing past life regression. And a little bit later, she accidentally hypnotized somebody to a life where they were an extraterrestrial, and then she started writing books about extraterrestrials, and that opened up a whole new domain of exploration for her. And that sort of introduced me to what was possible as a writer. You can actually talk about things that aren't even really possible to talk about. You actually can talk about
Mm-hmm.
these things. That gave me the courage
Right.
to say what I was never able to say before. I thought, if they can do it, I can do it too. And that's how it is with the ETC. They call me a guinea pig. They say, if I can do it, then anybody can do it. So they're always experimenting on me.
Mhm.
Let's see all I can do.
It's right.
Turns out
That's
I can do.
interesting, Randy.
Turns out I
Yeah,
can do quite a bit, but so can everybody. So can everybody.
right. Yeah, that's actually interesting. It's like working on the progress that would, let's say, bring out or bring about, what might happen in the future, or what do you think the future holds? Let's say the advancements in
Yeah.
technologies, the climate change, being advanced to, or being um, possibly open for the new Earth, just like what you mentioned earlier. It's the ability to adapt these changes, prioritize sustainability, a collaboration across societies at the same time. Wow, that's interesting, Randy. Now, also, Randy, you're talking about ETs. How did you meet these ETs? What does ET means?
Yeah. Um, there's a doctor. His name is Stephen Greer. He works with presidents. He's worked with several presidents, and he works with the Pentagon on the subject of US UFOs and extraterrestrial life. He's identified at least 56 different species of extraterrestrials, and
Whoa.
yeah, I recommend his work highly. He's validated my own work. Like, I consider him an important colleague. Um, there, they have shown him 8 different stages of civilization, of advanced civilization. 1 through 8. And there's more than 8, but he said beyond 8, we can't really, it's beyond our comprehension. But sadly, our civilization is at stage 0. And the reason we're at stage 0 is because we still kill. We kill people and we kill animals. You can't get to
Mm-hmm.
the higher stages of evolution until you stop killing. So that's our first task. That's our first step. And we have a ways to go. We have a ways to go before we're there. But we're going to get
Wow.
there. We're going to get there.
Right, right. And you also, I just wanted to go back, Randy, because you say that we're evolving into a new species. What do you think, or what will this new species be?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The book that deals explicitly with that is Celestials, the Emergent Species.
Celestials.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
I consider that there's something beautiful about that book. It's actually probably emotionally my favorite book right now. There's just a beauty to it because it shows who and what we're becoming. Um,
Mm.
it isn't human. It's beyond human. Human gets
Wow.
sort of think about a caterpillar, that creates its chrysalis and then becomes a butterfly. It's the human is the caterpillar. And it serves its purpose. There's nothing wrong with it. It's necessary. But humanity is a transitional species. That's what they've told me. It's necessary, but a transitional species.
Right.
What we're truly becoming is the butterfly, which is a whole different category.
Uh-huh.
So much more freedom and beauty. So that's what we've got to look forward to. And just so much more joy. There's a tremendous joy when you access these higher dimensions.
Mm.
Open your heart and access the higher dimensions. This joy just starts pouring in.
Right. Wow. Thank you so much for that, Randy. And you know what? It's actually like, reflecting the advancements in genetics,
Oh yeah,
just like
yeah.
or technology at the same time changing, let's say, societal norms, while cultural and technological influences may accelerate change, biological evolution also operates over what long time scales, making any definitive emergence for a new species is really a complex and unpredictable process, but
It's
definitely.
an
Right.
image came to me when I was meditating once. It was a vortex, like getting sucked into a black hole, or even like a toilet flushing. And it's like we're getting sucked into that. And at some point, it's going so fast that you can't get out of it. So I mean, with a black hole, once you've crossed the event horizon, you can't. There's no escaping. You're going to be sucked in no matter what. And so they said you probably wonder why we're not rescuing you. That said, the
Mm,
reason we're not rescuing you is because we're the ones that set this in motion in the first place. He said, this is the door that you
mm,
have to go through. This is the door that you have to go through to get to the other side. So it could well be, and
wow.
watching the news for 5 minutes, it sort of feels this way, that things may have to get worse before they get better.
Mm,
We're going to have to get sucked into this black hole before we pop out into a white hole in an entirely different universe. But there's no other way to get there. There's no other way to get there.
exactly. That says a lot about interconnectedness, could
That's
also
the
lead
whole
to,
thing.
let's say, a divergent what evolutionary paths, potentially potentially resulting in distinct adaptations. Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
It's
This
going
is
to take
so
a
brilliant,
Going
Randy.
to take a lot of courage, but we have
Hmm.
courage. We have courage
Exactly.
inside us to get there.
It's about, let's say the technology, the impact of what we could say climate change may also drive significant,
Yeah,
yes, evolutionary changes, just
yeah,
like what you
yeah,
mentioned earlier.
yeah.
That's amazing. That's very interesting, Randy. Well, and also, Randy, I really wanted to ask this to you. What do you think the future holds?
Yeah. I mentioned quantum physics earlier. Um, this is tricky, but the ETs they taught me something recently that really kind of revolutionized how I think of time. There's no such thing as the future. The future doesn't exist.
Interesting.
The
Hmm.
only thing that exists is right now, right now. And we can imagine the future, but we're imagining it from right now. So there is no future. The only thing that there is right now. And then you turn around the other direction and say, well, my goodness, the past isn't there either. Even the past doesn't exist. So once you realize that the future doesn't exist, then you realize you spent, well, I did. I realized I've been spending most of my life worrying about something that doesn't even exist.
Mm,
There is no future. There's only right now.
Wow, I like that. I mean, we may see innovations in artificial intelligence,
Yeah,
just like, what we have right now, or
yeah,
let's say renewable energy,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
biotechnological that can enhance quality of life, which is the advancement while tackling global, let's say, challenges. But however, these progress could also bring about ethical dilemmas and necessities
Oh, God,
from,
yes. Yeah.
the careful governance. you know, Future will likely hinge, or let's say the ability to adapt on these changes can really, foster collaboration across societies. But I really like how you mentioned earlier, Randy, there's no future, but what we have is really to live what we have right now. Wow, that's amazing.
The present moment is the same as eternity. So we're actually what we do is we're stepping into eternity, and,
Mhm.
that's a beautiful place. If you
Wow.
mentioned politics, I didn't
I
real
like that.
the Salvo is coming out as an audiobook now. It was published in 2021, I guess, and it did well. It did well, but
That's good.
it's it's coming out soon as an audiobook. And
Mm.
when Donald Trump won the election, I went back and read it again, and the book is Salvo. It's all about Donald Trump. It really is. The very first introduction mentions Trump, and he's mentioned throughout the book. Um, so this someone asked me, is this book pro-Trump or anti-Trump? And I said neither. It's love Trump, because we're not going to be able to get to the other side until we open our hearts and access the higher dimensions. Trump is
Mm.
a powerful catalyst for all of this happening.
Mhm.
So we need to
Wow.
welcome that. It's a catalyst. We're taking us where we don't want to go, but where we have to go to get to where we need to.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Randy. And of course, Randy, before we end our session, is there any message that you'd like to give to our viewers right now or to your readers?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah. Somebody asked me once, what is the tone of your books? I said, well, the subject matter is actually pretty heavy and dark, but the tone is inarguably exultant, just absolutely exultant. Because where we're going is just so beautiful, so beautiful. Even though it doesn't always look
Wow.
that way. So that's the message I'd like to leave. It's just where we're going is just is so exaltant, just beyond anything that we can imagine.
Hmm. That's interesting. We are looking forward to really see that, you know, um, New Earth. Wow. Thank you so much for that, Randy. That's very interesting. It's powerful. And really, for our viewers out there, if you wanted to grab Mr. Randy Lee Higgins' book, that is available in Amazon.com, Barnes& and Noble, and please do check his website because definitely this is going to be your chance to know more information about him as the author of the book, and at the same time the journey behind it and the book itself as well. So please do check his website. That's www.randyleehigginsphd.com.
Yeah.
And Randy, well, thank you so much for gracing with us today. And of course, on behalf of Reader's Magnet team, we are very honored and happy that you also chose us to be part of this journey. Thank you so much. And yes, everyone, this is our author, Mr. Randy Lee Higgins, author of the book Salvo. Again, Randy, thank you so much. And as we say it here in Reader's Magnet,
Yeah.
we share your story with the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Good to see you.